Senator Roberts.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Seeing that we have a quorum, I move that we go into executive session. Do I have a second? I have a second. We are now in executive session. I move that we do pass Senate Bill 993. Do I have a second? I have a second. Any discussion? This one is Senator Brown's.
Earnings tax. The earnings tax. Getting rid of the earnings tax in the city of St. Louis.
Any further discussion? Seeing none? Yes.
I'm going to get it out of here. I'm not sure on the floor because it leaves a lot of questions unanswered for me as far as Kansas City. I know this only applies to St. Louis, but both cities would be decimated, I'm afraid. I never support starting this, but I just don't know that ending it is the right policy. But I'll vote to get it to the floor. Thank you.
Any further questions? Okay. I move that we do pass Senate Bill 993. Do I have a second? Have a second. Mr. Secretary, please call the roll.
Senator Thompson Reeder.
Aye.
Senator Burnskatter. Senator Searpoint. Senator Coleman. Senator Fitzwater. Senator Koenig. Senator Rizzo. Senator Roberts.
Yep.
By your vote of 4 to 1, you have moved do pass Senate Bill 993. I now move that we bring up SJR53 before the committee. Do I have a second? I have a second. Any discussion on the bill? This one is Senator Eigel's SJR that was presented last week. What was that? Yes. The bill presentation last week from Senator Eigel. I'm gonna put my glasses on so I can. Do you need me to give you more detail on it? Okay. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I move that we do pass Senate Joint Resolution 53. Do I have a second? I have a second. Mr. Secretary, please call the roll.
Senator Thompson Reeder.
Aye.
Senator Burnskatter. Senator Searpoint. Oh, sorry. Senator Coleman. Senator Fitzwater. Senator Koenig. Senator Rizzo. Senator Roberts. Senator Searpoint. 4 to 1.
By your vote of 4-1, you have moved do pass Senate Joint Resolution 53. I now move we go out of executive session. Do I have a second? Have a second. And now, Representative, we are ready to hear your bill. House Bill 1516. Representative Murphy, we are ready when you are.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. State Representative Jim Murphy from District 94, South St. Louis County. I'm here today to present the bill. You've already heard from Senator Brown. I'll give you a little more background on it, I think, on this. The City of St. Louis and Kansas City both established procedures to refund collected earnings tax to employees who work in the city when the job requires them to work outside the city. This has been their traditional rule, and it in section 92.111 states clearly salary, wages, commissions, and other compensation earned by city residents they can charge sales tax or earnings tax on. Salary, wages, and commissions, and other compensation earned by non-residents of the city for work done for services and performed and rendered in the city. That's the law. It says it very clearly. During COVID, workers who normally worked within the city were suddenly required to stay at home, and they started working from home. Kansas City looked at this and said, nothing in the law has changed. Nothing in our rules have changed. So those workers that worked outside the city, they continued to refund the earnings tax. Tammy Queen, who was the director of finance for Kansas City, testified that when they were looking at this, they expected a hit on their budget of about $50 million. But when it was all said and done, the amount of refunds during COVID only amounted to about $15 to $17 million. So the hit on the city was much less than they actually expected. St. Louis seems to think that they're going to lose $50 million on this, but none of the numbers add up to that. St. Louis, on the other hand, their direct collector of revenue, Gregory Daly, made a determination that the city couldn't afford to lose any earnings tax. So even though the law didn't allow it, they unlawfully continued to collect earnings tax and refused to refund any earnings tax for people that didn't live in the city nor work in the city. They never stepped foot in the city, but they continued to take it and refused to give them a refund. Now, they still do it for, like, the Cardinals. If the Cardinals go out of town and have an away game, those players are refunded their earnings tax because they didn't work within the city. But they refuse to refund money from remote workers that work outside the city. Now, let me tell you how extreme this is. We have a lobbyist here in Jeff City who worked for AT&T. They had an office here in the city, in Jefferson City, and AT&T decided, well, we're no longer going to have that office. We'd like for you to work at home. Well, now she works at home, and there's no business address in Jefferson City. So guess what the city of St. Louis is doing? They're charging her an earnings tax, although she lives here and works here in Jefferson City. Now think of the absurdity of that. Well, there was a lawsuit that took place back in last year, and in January, the Honorable Jason Seganist of the Circuit Court ruled that the city had no legal authority to collect taxes outside for remote workers. It was a simple suit because there was only 6 plaintiffs. Now the lawyers asked for it to be a wider suit than that, and the judge said, no, let's just deal with these 6. And he ruled that the city had no legal authority to collect that tax from people that never worked in the city or lived in the city, because that's clearly what the statute says. St. Louis, in their wisdom, appealed the ruling. And that has gone on and on and on. And I actually believe that the judge is waiting to see what we're going to do before he makes a ruling on it. Because if he makes a ruling on it, he's probably going to make it a class action suit, and it's going to cost the city a lot of money. So the foolishness of their stubbornness is going to come back and bite them. What my bill does is basically clarifies our law, that what's already in it. You know, if they can't understand that performed or rendered in the city isn't clear enough, we're going to say this does not, you cannot apply this to remote workers. It's which is already there, but obviously they've decided to ignore the real law. So that's what this bill does. It says if you work remotely, you cannot be charged an earnings tax. And with that, I'll take any question.
Thank you. Do we have questions for the representative?
Very briefly.
Yeah.
Proceed.
And this might be in the fiscal note. I apologize. I didn't get a chance to look through it yet. Do you know what the fiscal impact would be to the city of St. Louis?
We really don't, because the city's making outrageous claims. They're saying it's going to cost them $50 million, and we know that's not true. It really shouldn't have any impact on them because it's a tax they shouldn't be collecting to begin with.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Anyone wishing to testify in favor, please come forward. Please be sure to fill out a witness form, and we're ready when you are.
Madam Chair, Ray McCarty, Associated Industries in Missouri. I filed online. I did notice this morning there's a St. Louis Business Journal article, Senator, to your point about decimating the city revenues. It says St. Louis projects a $26 million hit to its budget because of this. Earlier they had said $50 million. Now they say it's $26 million because they have a group that's studying that for the city. They have a $1.3 billion budget, and also they are projecting, even with that they would still increase their revenues from $567 million to $581 million from fiscal year 2024. So it doesn't look like this is going to decimate them, but when you get down to it, they have no constitutional way to impose this tax anyway. The 14th Amendment provides due process and says that you can't impose a tax outside your borders, which is why, Missouri doesn't impose a tax on Illinois people, for example. If that becomes the norm and we're able to do that, then of course let's tax New York, let's tax California. But we can't do that, and the city can't do that either for work that's performed entirely outside the city and the person does not live there. So we're happy to support this. We hope that you'll pass the bill, and I look forward to answering any questions you may have.
Any questions for this witness? Seeing none, thank you. Anyone wishing to testify in favor? Anyone wishing to testify against? Good morning, ready when you are.
Good morning, Jackie Barget, registered lobbyist on behalf of the city of St. Louis. I will not repeat everything I said last time or 2 weeks ago when we heard Senator Trent's legislation that is fairly similar to Representative Murphy's, but I do just want to clarify a couple things that have been said. When you mentioned the Cardinals earlier, individuals that work, that are subject to the earnings tax, that are traveling for work, anyone, not just the Cardinals, are still getting refunded. The issue that we're talking about right now is remote work when people are telecommuting, which is what skyrocketed during the pandemic, is people working from home a few days a week, or people telecommuting because their offices were closed down or they downsized a little bit. In regards to the fiscal note, the reason that it is hard to nail down an exact number is about 50% of the earnings tax revenue comes from non-residents around the city of St. Louis. So with that said, it's hard for us to know how many of those people would actually file for a refund that are actually working remote. The number of $50 million is still the number that is the baseline, and I think they have cut that in half, anticipating that not all of them will actually refile for that refund. And I think that's how they got to that $25 million. This is me speculating, but I believe that's how they got there. Our biggest concern, honestly, as I said last time, is that this legislation will pass and whatever the court ruling decides is going to conflict, and that's just going to cause more confusion for taxpayers not being able to move forward in how they're supposed to refund and do that. But with that said, there's another piece of Representative Murphy's bill that deals with transparency. The Collector of Revenue's office, I think I said this last time, but just in case I didn't, is in the process of launching a software that publishes on their website absolutely everything that they collect, who they collect from, making it substantially easier to get your refunds, but also allowing anyone to come on there and pull reports on where that money's coming from, who it's coming from residents, non-residents, just to get a better understanding of where the money's coming from too. And with that said, I will take any questions.
Any questions for this witness? Senator Kane?
So can you explain to me why the city would appeal that court case?
I do not know.
Because it literally makes no sense for them to be able to tax my citizens in my district when they didn't step foot in the city of St. Louis.
And I don't know if that was a question or not, but
I mean,
yeah.
it's a non-defensible thing to do.
The only
It's
thing
immoral.
The only thing I will say is that there are 17 states in the District of Columbia that have given cities and counties within those jurisdictions the ability to issue earnings tax on taxpayers. And of all of the cities and counties that have an earnings tax, their response to the pandemic and the increase in remote and telecommuters is all over the board. So I
can't remember a specific court case, but I believe there's a court case involving Maryland where they tried to do something similar, and the U.S. Supreme Court struck them down. I don't have it because I looked at it years ago. I don't remember the exact court case that was, but it involved Maryland.
No, I will look it up. Thank you.
Any other questions from this witness? Seeing none, thank you so much. Anyone else wishing to testify against? Anyone here for informational purposes only? Seeing none, Representative, would you like to have any closing comments?
Yeah, just to be clear, this is a report from a committee I had during the interim where we studied this, and we took many witness testimonies from both Kansas City and St. Louis. This isn't just a representative that came forth with a bill. This is somebody who actually went out, talked to experts across the state from Kansas City and from St. Louis, and almost unanimously, everybody outside of St. Louis thought that it was a fool's gambit, what they tried to do. I'm really disappointed that the city of St. Louis appealed that decision because I think it's going to hurt them. I think that it's quite possible if we pass this bill that the courts will dismiss that whole case, and I hope if we do that, that might be a good thing for the city, because if they let this become a class action suit, it truly will hurt that city. And as much as the city likes to say that we want to hurt them, we don't. We want them to grow. We want them to be prosperous. It is a heartbeat of this state, and we need to stop the decline of the city of St. Louis. And this is not aimed at doing that. This is aimed at protecting our citizens who are harmed, because that's our job too. But I believe that passing this bill may be beneficial to them. And with that, I close.
Thank you. This concludes our hearing on House Bill 1516, and with no other business coming before the body, fiscal oversight is over.